You are listening to Trophy Horse with your hosts, Tricky Nick, Alex, I Yield to Nolan, Sid, and Ender Phoenix.
And welcome to another exciting, thrilling, awesome, nice, if you will, episode of the Trophy Wars, episode number 679. I'm your host. I will be hosting tonight since Tricky is off on assignment in... Where did we send him this week, Alex?
Constantinople.
They wrote a song about that place. Are you sure you sent him to the right place?
Well, I mean, he was a really big Animaniacs fan, so I figured we just had to.
Well, old New York was once New Amsterdam.
Well, they tend to change names anyways. They Might Be Giants wrote a whole article about it. You might want to go read that. As you heard him, Alex is here as well. How you doing, Alex?
I got a question, Matt. Is it nice or is it noise?
We could make it noise since it's episode 679.
Yeah, I just wonder what we're shooting for here on this show.
It's a noise with a lucky 7 right in the middle.
Nice.
And yeah, there he is again. Yield, what's up, Yield?
Oh, it was a long week for some odd, weird reason, but ready to record.
And a super short weekend, at least in my case.
No, I agree with that.
But yeah, now the house hunting it continues on. We've shown the house a bunch. We've seen a bunch of houses. We're just waiting for everything to align perfectly for us to make the next step. Hopefully, it happens soon.
But, you all should go. You all should go out on a house of Tricky. Have Tricky be your roommate.
Have you ever heard of thought bubble, speech bubble? Because I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, but it's not what I'm thinking.
I just wanted to throw that out there to see how you would react. Exactly how you would dance around it.
Yeah, well, Tricky is a nice person. It has nothing to do with that. He's listening in on our Discord chat right now, and I think anybody would be privileged to live with him that is named
somebody else,
the goddess, and I forgot what the other. There you go. Thank you. He hasn't. I can't remember the last time he said it. Yeah, no, they are privileged and happy to be around him and live with him. But he is Staten Island, I'm Jersey. It's like West Side, East Side. You can't mix the two.
I thought you were going to say you just needed an entire room for your Legos, and so there wasn't an extra bedroom to share with anybody.
Well, that's still a fact. I mean,
priorities.
Yeah. We're moving. Trust me, we will make use of the space in the best way possible. Yeah, no, which makes me think all about future and when I die and what everybody has to do with my crap. Anyways,
that's why you
we're not here to talk.
Painfully start getting rid of it while you're, still able to. I bet you could donate a bunch of those Legos somewhere.
Why would I have to get rid of it? When I die, it's not my problem anymore.
You just take them with you. Be like, that Star Destroyer's coming with me.
Just throw it in the crematorium with us.
They'll open your cat. Well, I don't know how you want to have. We don't need to get too grim on this, but I don't know how you want to be. Enter the afterlife. But in 100 years, they're going to open your casket, and it's like man buried with 50 Soundwave figures. Like, how did this happen?
Oh no!
He's gonna have a pyramid. It's gonna be a star.
It's like the old Egyptian gods. Yes. I need to be buried with my shit.
Yes.
I don't think Narga wants to be buried with you, though, alive.
If Narga lasts till when I die, I'd be very surprised. In typical Matt fashion, I will be putting it out there that I will be cremated. So if you need to throw all of those plastics in with me, oh my, that is going to release something deadly into the air.
Ash and plastic, huh? I wonder how that would turn out.
But it would help cover up the smell of, the burning body. which from what I've seen in documentaries is not too pleasant.
I feel like the smell coming from the Lego might be a little more problematic.
Well, you're not.
Wouldn't that be pretty toxic?
Do you remember? Did you ever watch the Return of the Night of the Living Dead, and them burning the zombies in the crematorium, which released like the acid rain? I imagine that's a lot of what it would be like if you burn all my Lego with.
Well, to be fair, if you have like the knockoff Chinese Legos that you have, that's even worse. Like that's going to be even more deadly.
I feel like the PVC plastic from Lego and the PVC plastic from the Chinese knockoffs is not too far off.
I think you're giving the knockoffs too much credit, but well, you don't want to start World War III here, so we're going to talk nice about the Chinese Legos in quotes.
Well, we are not here to talk about Lego or my house hunting or my cremation post.
Yeah, sorry, we recently watched The Mortician on one of the streaming services, so I mean that's kind of fresh in my mind. It's a good documentary if you haven't watched it, but yeah, it's fresh in there and just kind of came out.
I do want to go out there and play. There's a game called the Mortuary's Assistant. It's like a real like horror type game. It looks fun. Also fun are our updated trophy counts. I will go first with Tricky's here, so it gives you chance to pull up yours. Tricky is still level 969. Nice. With 34,652 trophies and still hovering at the 999 plats. And I will say this out there, Tricky, just do a spam plat for your 1,000th. It would make perfect sense, and you get that out of the way. Alex, your updated counts?
Homie still can't find that ghost ship or can't get to that ghost ship in Prince of Persia. If you got the platinum, you know what I'm talking about. Level 522, total trophy count 10,705, and a platinum count of 195 in 194 games. I originally set the goal for myself to get to 200 platinums this year, which I guess technically means I have to get a 201. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to make it there. I know we got plenty of time left in the year, but I don't know if I'm going to make it there.
I think you can do it. I believe in you.
I mean, I can do it. Do I have the will, though? Because I haven't earned a trophy in like 3 weeks.
Really? It's been that long?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, after Prince of Persia, I played Dave the Diver, and there were no new trophies for that. So, I mean, I got my eyes on a DLC on a game, which we'll talk about and what I've been playing, but I don't know. These days, I can't just pop into another game. Like, after I finish a game, I kind of like just get into this little groove where I play games I've already played before. And for me, like, the energy to learn a new game and start a new game all from scratch and get that 0% on the trophy count, I don't know. It just takes more. It just takes more time for me to want to do that these days. I just don't want to float over into the next game, if that makes any sense.
I think it makes sense.
Meanwhile, Matt's playing like 12 games at a time.
Yeah, I'm never finishing any of them.
I am at level 532, 25% of the way to 523, with a trophy count of 11,252 and 215 platinums, juggling 216 and 270.
Thank God you took a pause there. I was in the middle of yawning and I thought I was going to have to speak. I am level 222, 1,337 trophies and 0 platinums. That has not changed because I have not turned on my PS5 for probably what feels like months now because there's nothing I want to play on it. Sid is level 894 with 27,393 trophies and 851 platinums. And speaking of trophies, Gil, do you have the trophy rarity update for this week, I believe?
Yes. That was the one thing I didn't have pulled up. Here it is. So, Pee-wee stays top of Division 1 for the second consecutive week, moving to 174 points, following an increase of 43. Moving to second and jumping 10 places is Crook 09, Top scored this week for the division was 115, who now sits at 149. Nitro and Diego closely follow in third and fourth on 142 and 137 respectively. At the bottom of Division 1, we have Rick and Waterfields exchange places, for the latter dropping to the foot of the table on 10 points. Rick moves to 15th on 15 points. Tricky increased his score by 13 points to a high 27, but still finds himself in the bottom three, 26 points behind CJ, who is just outside the regulation zone. I have a feeling CJ is going to be passing Tricky. Myself still sits in 6th spot, scoring 51 points and moving to 129 so far this second half. The top three from the first week in Division 2 all hold on to their spots for the second consecutive week. X-Nightmare 317, Roll on the Floor Laughing Out Loud Z, because that's how I would do it, and the Big Don. The top score in Division 2 goes to Ifrit Hellfire 90, who scored 48 and saw him move from 5th to 4th. Elsewhere, resident Daryl moved off the bottom up to 13th with 20-point score. Big Bernardo B replaces him at the foot of the table with 1. Rarest trophy of the week. 5th place goes to Nitro with the precision shot in Star Wars Battlefront at 5.88. California Wayne with 3-peat in NBA 2K25 at 5.41. Myself is in 3rd with Let It Flow in Firefighting Simulator The Squad at 4.71. Rolling on the Floor Laughing Out Loud Z with Rule Breaker and Bellarto at 4.38. And the top spot for the rarest trophy of the week goes to Marky Frazier with Tools of the Trade and Iron Harvest at 2.71. Alex's legacy trophies still working for him, and despite not earning a trophy in July, still manages to sit 6th with 43 points following an 18-point increase this week. See, Tricky? Alex ain't done squat, and he's still earning more points than you. That's the rarity update with my own little twist in it here and there. Back to you, Matt.
I appreciate that because, I like when you read it because you get to put some zingers in there, especially, for Tricky. So with that said, thank you to Yield for reading that out. Thank you, Gaz, for putting it all together and keeping it all succinct and whatnot. I know you're a busy guy, so therefore it's nice to have that for the people who care about trophies. Not me, however. Moving on, we do actually have a Sophie's Trophy update this week. And in the magic of editing, Tricky's going to put it in on the back end. So hopefully that is done well enough without my intervention. To you, Tricky and Sophie's Trophies.
Hello again, my friends. It's Sid, and I'm back with another Sophie's Trophies Platinum shout-out. And so, we will start with California Wayne, and they have Hogwarts Legacy on the PS5. Then we have Pee-wee, ITFC, and we have Brotato and D-Exit, both of them on the PS5. I've heard of Brotato, I've not heard of D-Exit. Then we have Misa Goatsalot, or Goatsalot, and they have done Dungeons of Hinterberg, again on the PS5. And then we have Doc Chicken 13, and they have done Elden Ring Night Rain on the PS4. I've got to give a shout out for that one, man. Elden Ring Night Rain, well done. I've done Elden Ring, I've not even tried Night Rain yet, because the social aspect puts me off, I have to say. And then we have Sai Taikist, who has done Makota on the PS4 and Ord on the PS4. Next up, X-Nightmare 317, The Witness on the PS4. Give a shout out for that one. And Hot Shots Golf on the PS4. And then we have The Big Don, and they have Pinball Heroes on both the PS4 and the PS5. And then we have Ifrit Hellfire 90, and they have Sandlord on the PS5. That's one I've not played. And then we have Dat One Seagull, which I believe is good old Donny. And they have done Stellar Blade on the PS5. So well done for that one, Donny. So yeah, the best one I have to say, guys, for me this week, because each time I do this, I'm going to pick my favourite platinum. And it has to be Elden Ring Night Rain. So well done, Doc Chicken 13. And come on, guys, any platinums you get, send them over to Gaz, and he will send them over to me to read out. And yeah, so that's this week's done. Hopefully it'll sound better than last week's. Sorry about that recording. But everybody take care. Keep getting those trophies. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
And we're back from Sophie's Trophies. Thank you, Sid. As always, appreciate when you send your file in. I know people who love trophies love hearing about it. And again, great section to have. So that said, we're going to move on to what we are playing. Alex, you want to jump in there first?
Oh, man. Now, this is going to be easy this week. Just really Helldivers and Rocket League. New seasons or relatively new seasons in those. I guess you'd say a fresh Rocket Pass and a new couple of war bonds I'm working on. So I kind of had stuff to do in both of those games. So, I mean, I really haven't... I've been able to pass the time and enjoy my time playing games without investing in a new game. And like I said recently, it's been Ren Fair season and it's been Burger Week in Louisville. So a lot of my money has been going to the Ren Fair and food. So I kind of scaled it back on games a little bit, dropped down to Essential, like I said, for the time being on PlayStation Plus. So yeah, but the couple of things, there is a DLC for Still Wakes the Deep, which if you remember, I played last year. It's kind of one of my Halloween games in fall of last year. They have a DLC out called, I think it's Siren Risen or something like that. Basically, from what I understand, you have to, there's been an oil rig that is sunk to the bottom of the North Ocean, or the North Sea, and, or the North Atlantic, excuse me, not the North Sea, that's over in Europe. The North Atlantic, and you have to go investigate it. And of course, it being Still Wakes the Deep, there's all kinds of spooky things about it. So, that's got 22 new trophies. They took away my 100%. Can't take away my platinum. I want to state that. But they did take away my 100%, so I'm going to have to get that. It's about, I think, $13 on the PlayStation Network. So, and now that I think of it, I think the DLC is called Sirens Rising. I think that's what it's called. But yeah, the other game I'm looking at is currently on sale until the 31st, I believe. So we got a little less than 2 weeks. So if you hear this on the show this week, you still got time. But it's a game that Joe Priestley has mentioned before and kind of recommended to me, and that's TMNT Splintered Fate, which is kind of like a roguelike game with, I guess it's kind of in the style of Hades, but with the turtles and some of your favorites are in there. Karai, Shredder, Bebop and Rocksteady, Leatherhead. So I've been watching videos on it. It's half off right now, so it's normally 30. I think it's 15 right now. So definitely been thinking about giving that one a go because, I am a turtle head. So, but yeah, as far as what I've been playing and what I'm looking forward to playing, I think that's about it. If anyone has any specific feedback on Splintered Fate, I know Joe Priestley likes it. So I guess, Joe, if you have more feedback you want to give me, that's fine. But I think I've gotten enough feedback from you. But yeah, if anyone has any feedback on that game and if they enjoyed it, please let me know.
Insert long pause.
I was going to say, Matt, you there?
Awkward.
I was going to say, I didn't know if you were asking me for feedback because, I love Splintered Fate.
Oh, you had played it.
Yes, I have. And it is a lot of fun, albeit a little repetitive on some of the language. When you come from games like Hades and everything's super massive, super giant, whoever it was did that.
Super giant, super massive was the Until Dawn.
Super giant. Yeah. Okay. I always get those two confused. Thank you. The sheer amount of voice acting in a game like Hades, you go, this is awesome. And then you have something like Splintered Fate, which I love the voice acting in that game. I think they nailed each and every character from a voice model. However, after maybe 4 or 5 runs, I've heard everything there is to hear. There's really nothing new there. And I'm not expecting much. I think this came from a mobile game at some point. So them having voice acting at all is awesome. It just got very repetitive very quickly on the story front. But the gameplay, perfect. The upgrade system's awesome. being able to play as all the turtles, and I think they eventually added Casey. I forgot.
Did they added Casey Jones?
I have to go back and check. Don't get too excited until I confirm.
I always like Casey Jones.
But it's a fun co-op game, because after a while there was a game that came out called Sworn that was very Hades-like, and that was co-op. And it was all like King Arthur era stuff as opposed to, Greek mythology. But having something like the Ninja Turtles in that type of setting, a lot of fun. I like it a lot.
May I ask, Matt, how it is to play it solo? Is it fun playing it solo?
Not as fun as co-op.
Because I was going to say, I don't know, how is the co-op set up? Because I don't know if I would have somebody to play with or if I would just be going it alone. I mean, I guess I could always tag Joe Priestley. I'm assuming there's online co-op, but is there online? Is it only couch?
No, it's online, because I know I have it on Steam, and therefore I'm able to play it with other players. I don't know if there's cross-play.
So I was getting ready to ask, is it cross-platform?
I think it may be, because they do it via game codes, lobby codes, not necessarily like the Steam friends list.
Oh, okay. So you could play it with Alex, or if Joe has it on a different system, they could play it.
Yeah. Let me look and see, because I swore it was Splintered Fate.
Because I feel like Joe's had the game for so long, he would almost have to have it on Switch, because that's where it came out first. It didn't come out until on the PlayStation until later. I think it came out on Switch first or earlier.
It says, yes, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splinter Fate does have crossplay between Nintendo Switch and PC. It also includes Apple Arcade. Yeah, crossplay no matter what platform.
Well, that's good, Alex.
Yeah. And I guess when if you're playing with somebody random over the internet, if I can't link up with somebody I know, I don't know how much, more fun that would be, but it's nice to know there's the option. And also difficulty-wise, Matt, I know these games tend to ask you to master the system or the combat and just the gameplay. Is it a more difficult game? Not that that's going to stop me, but
I would say less difficult than like a game like Hades. And also the upgrade system plays a huge role. I remember the first couple runs I did, I was like, wow, this is not 100% great experience. Things were feeling kind of janky. You didn't have a lot of life. And then as you go through the upgrades and you get more HP or additional lives once you've been downed, it massively improves as you go through the upgrade path.
okay. Good to know. And I think I read somewhere where somebody ranked Donatello as the worst turtle in the game by far.
Well, I never played Donatello.
What?
So.
In any game?
No, I'm a Leo guy.
The most boring one?
The most boring one. The guy who stands on honor. The guy who has 2 awesome katanas. The guy who's the leader of the turtles.
Well, that's technically Splinter, but,
Yeah, you don't be bringing that BS to me. Everybody knows Splinter is the head and that Leo is the leader of the squad.
Well, yes, Splinter is the head of the Voltron, though.
That's a no.
No, how is that not true? He's the head of the monster. He's the head of the giant fighting robot. To be fair, I feel like when we were growing up, Splinter was more of the sensei, but as time has gone on, he's gotten more and more involved. For instance, he was a playable character in Shredder's Revenge.
Yes, and it was an awesome character in Shredder's Revenge.
And you know why that is, Matt? It's because he's
the leader.
A fucking head. Okay, yeah, I'll have to.
My.
He's the Black Lion.
Is that when the head yield?
Yeah, that one.
I'm assuming so. I don't remember which lion goes where, but I'll take your word for it. I know you're very confident in that answer, so I feel like you know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah. Voltron. I will die on my hill of Voltron versus Power Rangers.
Well, we know that you prefer Voltron to Power Rangers. We know.
Yes.
Did you watch the Netflix Voltron, Yield?
No. I'm old school Voltron, which I will 100% die on the hill as well and say it does not age well. But when I was a kid, Voltron was the shit, and I'm dying on that hill. It is the shit.
I can't remember. I thought it was actually going away. And of course, I don't have Netflix on my phone.
I'm curious to see this live action one. I'm afraid to see it, but I'm curious to see it. So,
yeah, well, I make no I will say, as an old school Voltron fan, I really, really liked the Netflix series.
Oh, okay. So if I get Netflix, check out Voltron. That's what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, if it's still there. I thought I heard that it might have been going away, but
well, that's silly. If it was a Netflix thing, it should never go away.
You'd think. All right, Alex, that all?
In
what you've been playing?
Yeah. Sorry, I thought we got sidetracked there, and I got lost for me. Yes, that's all. That's all I've been playing.
But it was a good conversation. All right, Yield. Why don't you go into what you've been playing?
So I've played slightly more than Alex, but probably just as boring. Dropped into some Helldivers just a few times just to see if there was a capital defense going on, so I could tell my buddy to partake in it, because that's what he's missing, that trophy, and a couple of other easy to help him get trophies for that platinum. So I was dropping in there to help him out. I have played some Helldivers 2 because the new War Bond dropped on Thursday. Messed around with a little bit of that. Bought the new gun. It's okay. I think I need to get a little bit more used to it. Have spent the majority of my time in World of Warship Legends. Like I said, I jumped onto the campaign 4th of July week for the USS Wisconsin. And so I got, I think, there's 2 more weeks in the campaign. I think this time next week, I should have it done. Spent a lot of time also in Firefighting Simulator The Squad. I'm on to, both Nitro and I are on to our last grindy trophy, which is you need to drive 1,000 kilometers. And so we are to the point where we are just replaying the one mission, which is the longest mission, which is, I think, just over 7 miles. And we are to the point where we just keep replaying that mission over and over, and it's quite monotonous. It's almost to the point where you almost want to tell people don't go for that platinum, because it's got 2 really grindy trophies, and unless you have the mental fortitude to work on it, it's going to be a long grind. And there's no way to track it. You can't track it to the PlayStation 5 and be like, oh, okay, I'm 50% there. And there's no options in the menu to see how many you've driven. You just keep driving until it pops. So, been doing that. And then, been spending some time in Star Wars Battlefront, the first one. Really spent some time in it Friday night, Saturday, and then today, Sunday, because we got into a boosting group, and it's been a pretty cool boosting group. Everybody's been willing to help each other. There's a couple of guys in there, or I shouldn't assume guys. There's been a couple of gamers in there who have been very generous to, like myself, who's new or lower ranked, and been like, well, here, you can just kill me. That way you can get your kills for this weapon or this map and stuff like that. So that's been really cool. Ran into a couple of dinglings who were in the boosting group and couldn't read a room when they jumped into a game and was just wrecking the room. And so they have been blocked by the handful of us who was boosting today because you were wrecking our boosting. You weren't helping. So, but other than that, that's kind of been about it. I got to do some Rocket League before the end of Tuesday. That way I complete my dailies. That's been about it. Really trying to get Firefighting Simulator done and pushing through with Battlefront while everybody's kind of, the iron's hot with the boosting group. Trying to get what I can get. And then I hope to get back into some roadcraft and try something new. That's been it for me.
Alrighty. It's been a very demure week, I guess, for me. Just with everything that's been going on, it's been crazy. But I did play some games. I did pick up Daemon X Machina on a Humble Bundle sale, so I played a little bit on that on my Steam Deck. I also played a co-op roguelike game called Myth Force. It's kind of like Gunfire Reborn, but in a fantasy setting where you've got a bunch of players that, like one's a dashing rogue, another is a tanky paladin, an archer, and then I played a spellcaster whose main spell is fire. So, of course, I picked that without even knowing that. And then once I get into the game and I see she's casting fireballs, I'm like, yeah, this worked out very well in my favor. But the main game I want to talk about that I've been playing this week is indeed the newest addition to the Switch 2 library, Donkey Kong Bananza. And it is bananas. I've never been a huge Donkey Kong fan as far as like the old games. I never had the, the Super NES or the N64, so I never played the old Donkey Kong games. But this one intrigued me simply from a fact of it's basically taking Mario Odyssey and marrying it to Red Faction. You remember that first game on the PlayStation 2 that you could just destroy anything and everything around you to be able to complete your mission as you saw fit? You play as Donkey Kong and you get a little companion that comes with you, and your goal is to collect bananas. And unlike Mario Odyssey, collecting bananas is actually a benefit to you because as you collect, currently for me, it's 5 bananas. I don't know if it increases or requires more, but as you collect bananas, you get to institute stat points, which allows you to, jump further, punch harder, do a bunch of different things. There's a move you have that you slap the ground and it brings in the items around you. So kind of like, whether it's a Mario coin, these are like little gold pieces that you get to pull in. And your basic premise is, people are stealing the bananas, so you got to go find them. And you can destroy anything and everything around you. If I wanted to tunnel through a mountain, I could do that. If I wanted to climb over it, I could do that. And it's a lot of fun. And you go into like a menu and you see how many bananas you've collected in a level versus how many are left. And now you're looking at the level going, all right, I've collected 19 out of 21 bananas. Where the hell could these other 2 bananas be? And you have to dig around. You got to find prompts that maybe there was a side mission you missed. And it also has areas where you can go into alternate worlds, like there's challenge levels. One of them was I had to jump on this rack and basically handlebar my way all across the level, collecting bananas as I went. Another one was a combat challenge where I had to defeat enemies in a certain amount of time. So there's a lot of game here, and it is a lot of fun. So if you liked Mario Odyssey, I think regardless of your Donkey Kong disposition, I think you will enjoy this game. And it plays beautifully on the Switch 2, albeit there are a couple hiccups every now and then. There's like very specific scenes that has like a frame drop. And I don't know what that is, but it still plays beautifully otherwise. And I enjoy the hell out of it. So that's all I've really been playing this week. Like I said, it wasn't a lot. I've got a lot of stuff going on in my personal life that just hasn't allowed me to catch up. So that said, we are going to move on to the news, and we've got a couple different articles here. And the first article coming from Reuters, written by Mike Scarcella, whatever. Sorry, don't know. But basically, U.S. judge rejects Sony's settlement over the PlayStation game sales. And what this is a U.S. judge in California declined to approve a class action settlement with Sony that would have distributed 7.8 million in electronic credits to millions of users of the company's PlayStation video game consoles. Sony had agreed to the settlement to resolve claims that it overcharged for digital games, but the U.S. District Court said that the plaintiffs had not convinced her the accord was adequate. So I don't know. This is all in the world of digital game sales and what Sony was doing, and that there was a class action that accused Sony of legally monopolizing the sale of digital PlayStation games, and that the judge said any updated settlement proposal would show how the value and structure of this settlement remained defensible. There's a whole lot of legal jargon on here, and it only covers game purchases made between April 2019 and December 2023. I don't know. Alex, did you buy into this class action lawsuit? Are you getting a settlement from Sony once it clears the court?
I guess not, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I read the article. The plaintiffs have to prove, they have to go back and do a better job of proving their case, correct? It's not on Sony at all in this.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this. In suits like this, the plaintiff has to prove the damages. And it seems like, according to the judge, that hasn't been done.
And so this was over when stores stopped selling game codes for PlayStation games on PlayStation Network. And this is the class action lawsuit from that, where people were saying that Sony was monopolizing it and they could charge whatever they want because the game codes were not being sold in stores. They were only being sold on the PlayStation Network, correct?
I believe that was the basis of it.
So, I mean, obviously the plaintiffs, the class action, the consumers need to show more to prove that, this was the case. I mean, look, in any game that I've bought off the PlayStation Network, I've never seen Sony go buck wild with the price at all. Like, there's no game, you see your special editions and your collections and shit like that, but in general, the cost of a game is just the cost of a game. And I've never noticed any big difference between, any of these games on the PlayStation Network. Sony, I don't know. There's still two other companies out there selling games over digital networks. It doesn't make any sense for Sony to just, and not even to mention the PC as well. It doesn't make sense for Sony just to ratchet up the price for, the sake of making a few extra bucks when there's other platforms out there where the people can play on. So I've never really understood or thought that there was much gusto behind this case, to be honest with you. I mean, I've never seen, if prices started to go wild on the PlayStation Network, I can understand, but I just, have never seen that. It always seemed like things were priced. I mean, you can have opinions based on value versus playtime versus all that, but in general, it seems like it's all priced relatively fairly. So,
yeah, I mean, it's not exactly like, they stopped selling codes and started charging $100 for digital games. That would hurt them more than anything compared to their physical game prices. So it seems, listen, this is the natural part of a lawsuit. The plaintiff has to prove their case. But I don't know, Yield, you have any thoughts you want to share on this scenario?
I was just agreeing with Alex. It's not like when they took the game codes away that they took your latest insert Call of Duty number here and you could go buy the game card for, let's say, $80. That's the going price right now. And they took the game cards away, and now they're charging $100 for the base game, for the exact same game. That was $80 before they took the cards away. I haven't seen that, and I was agreeing with Alex when he was saying it, that you haven't seen the prices get wacky with stuff like that. So I understand the, I guess, annoyance of it, but instead of buying the game card, you can just go get a PSN card for roughly the same amount and purchase it that way. So I guess I'd say most of the time when there's a class action suit, if it makes sense, I can be like, okay, they have a leg to stand on. This one, I've never really been able to sit back and kind of go, I agree with what you're doing, because I don't really see where they're going.
Yeah, and that's where I want to touch on that. You said it is, in reality, you just go buy the PSN card, which, there might actually be discounts on, or you can buy other ways. It's just, you look at it and go, is the difference between a digital code and a game code that much different? And I know there's something, like you can go into a store and buy like a digital DLC code for a game that's already out. Like GameStop still has those. But I don't think PlayStation was the only one that stopped. I don't think you can get like an Xbox code from GameStop. Now, I know for a while there, I was able to go onto Amazon and buy a digital code for a Nintendo game. I haven't looked recently to see if that's still the case. I thought it might have gone away as well.
Yeah, I think they pretty much all have.
Yes, it's nice and easy. If you want to gift like a specific game to somebody, 9 times out of 10, I'm just buying a game store code and giving them the card and say, buy what you want.
Yeah, here, get what you want.
Yeah.
And I don't know this for a fact, but it seems like if I'm looking at this case, it seems like it's more theoretical. Like Sony could drive up their own prices without, having to compete at stuff being sold at the store. But I don't know.
Then you can't prove damages in that case, because this is a class action lawsuit. To prove damages, looking for a settlement. That's not what this is about. Like, that's not how you go about that. You can't say potentially down the line it could hurt us. No, this class action lawsuit has to prove damages done to you. Oh well, more to come, I'm sure. But
I do want to say, Tricky in our group chat text did say that I think it's, and I'm going to read this first. I asked for clarification in English because what he first sent was not. You can get the sense out of it, but it's you'll hear it. At the time it was Go Combat Piracy. So I'm assuming that at the time Sony was attempting to combat piracy. And then Tricky later continues, third-party retailers selling the same code multiple times thought it was BS then and now. How could they sell the same code multiple times for the same game? And those separate people being able to download the games, like after that code's been used, doesn't it, kill that code? Can you use that code again?
Well, certainly not on current games in the way that they do.
Once the code's been entered into the store, you can't use it again anywhere else. I mean, I guess you could sell it. That would be, but it wouldn't work. So
yeah, there'd be no piracy because if you can only sell a code, if a code is attached to a specific code is attached to a game after it's used once, I don't understand how you could sell that code again and then have somebody. Tricky says what they said was people complained about getting a new code and saying it was redeemed before.
Okay. Number one, I'm going to stop this back and forth. We're reading text right now because this is going to be too much. The point being is the lawsuit is out there. People have to prove damages. They haven't done that, so they got to go back to the drawing board if they want to pay out. Simple.
Sony's going to have to get caught red-handed with their, and again, since they're trying to push everything to digital, it makes no sense for them to just like completely rake people over the coals for pricing. So yeah, it behooves them to keep everything competitive.
Speaking of keeping things competitive, or in this case, not competitive, our favorite CEO, Ubisoft's Yves Guillemot.
Oh, I thought that was John
had some comments that. No, we just out and out hate him. That's
gotcha.
Fine. Yves, we still find adorable in that, oh, he's damaged kind of way. At a recent shareholder meeting, Yves Guillemot addressed the Stop Killing Games campaign. Jesus Christ, I can't talk tonight. And for those of you who don't know, this is an initiative in the UK that players have been signing a petition to get some sort of feedback from the government or game companies to say, don't sell games that you're going to eventually kill and make unplayable. Most notably, coming recently from The Crew's delisting, a Ubisoft game that shut down servers and turning it into a vaporware that people had paid for and no longer can play. So, at a recent shareholders meeting, our good old boy Yves talked about it and says that, he supports, I don't want to say supports the movement, because obviously Ubisoft started this, but he says that it's an issue that they've been dealing with, that it's not a Ubisoft specific issue, but that nothing is written in stone, that players aren't guaranteed to own games forever. And again, he questions the term own. And I think it's funny that he says nothing is written in stone. No, it's certainly written in the end user license agreement that you tell people they have to delete their games if the term is terminated. So, I mean, did we expect any different response from good old Yves as to what he thought about this now 1.4 million petitioner signed campaign over there? Alex?
You know, I feel like Yves was going to try to get out of the room without being too controversial, he was going to try to skate around the issue. He wasn't going to give you a definitive answer. He wasn't going to come out too strong against it. I mean, look, Ubisoft's taken a lot of flack for their stances recently, and you know, he, as the head of Ubisoft for the longest time now, has seen it in their great days, and more recently has seen it in darker days, I would say. So I think that he was going to try to come out middle of the road. I think that Ubisoft has said a lot of things that we know to be facts, but them coming out and saying it makes it far more real in our sense, and makes them, when they come out and say it, it makes it worse. It's like, if we know you do something, you know, instead of us selling us a game, you're selling us a license to play a game, don't come out and fucking say it, because then just pisses people off more. So I feel like Yves is going to dance around it, and Yves and any Ubisoft executive is going to dance around a lot of issues, because right now they're not in the best of light, especially in consumer size. I think that, and you know, with the whole crew thing and them recently updating their end-user licensing agreement, their EULA, to say, you know, if they take a game offline, basically you have to destroy the original copy that you got. Like, there's just not a lot of love for Ubisoft even before then. You know, we remember back to Star Wars. What was the game? No, Star Wars, the one with the bounty hunters. You played it.
So, the bounty hunters?
Yeah. It came out last year in the fall. Outlaws, yes.
Survivor?
Like
Outlaws.
No,
Okay.
I mean...
she's not a bounty hunter.
Oh, well, whatever. I was going to say Rebels, but that's a cartoon series, an animated series. But even back to then, like, people were souring on Ubisoft. So I just think Yves has got to be careful in what he says. And anything you get from him at this point, especially when put on the spot, is not going to be his true feelings necessarily. It's what he's been told to say, or what's the safest thing to say to a room of people.
Oh yeah, he absolutely has a team of lawyers saying, "Don't say this or say that." Yield, what do you think? Any additional thoughts? And
I don't know where to go with this. I like Ubisoft games, but also they say some really stupid stuff. I think they say some stupid stuff. They're not wrong, I guess, and we don't own games. Matt said it, and I agree with him, that we haven't really owned games since the PlayStation 2. So, when you buy an online... Let me say this. When you buy an online-only game, you know it's a ticking time bomb. You know, it could end in a week, 2 weeks, a la Concord, or it could last a few years, or it could last 10 years. You're on borrowed time for an online-only game. So, you should know that going in. And if you don't, I'm sorry, because those of us that have gamed for as long as we have know that it happens. But I agree with Alex. Coming out and saying what we already know just makes it worse. And I don't know what to say about Ubisoft. I like their stuff, but they just make me mad.
I mean, for the longest time, I played many Ubisoft games, and I've backed out of it recently because of the things that they've been saying about ownership. And I've known for the longest time. I go out there and I say, yeah, no, of course, my Steam library will not to be available at some point in the future. But somebody will figure out something. And all Stop Killing Games is trying to do is get some attention. And it's always the thing you talk about. You get the government involved in your gaming, you're not going to like it the way you think you're going to like it. So if this is...
Yeah, right. No, you're right. We're not going to like it. Because they'll muck it up.
As is tradition with government entities poking their heads in. And it makes me concerned that if companies dismiss movements like this, the only resort these players are going to have is to go to the government. And it's just going to fuck it all up. So careful what you wish for. And then, when it makes it easy when somebody like Yves comes out there and talks about not owning games, and they change their end user license agreement to say, you need to destroy your games once done. You need to uninstall it if we terminate this agreement. It just makes me go, okay, then I don't need to play your games. And that's why I like services like Game Pass or PS Plus. I truly know that this is only accessible to me while I pay your subscription fee, which is like me renting a game from Blockbuster. I know at some point it's got to go back. That's another discussion in and of itself. But speaking of digital games and discussions, there's been a little bit of hoopla over this past weekend that, so basically what happened was payment processors pushed for Valve to stop accepting certain types of games on their platform because it is against that payment processor's user agreement or terms that they will not pay or process payments for adult-rated games featuring certain categories of adult entertainment. And Steam came out there and said, yeah, no, this is actually what happened. These payment processors are a powerful entity, and we don't want to mess with them because they're the ones that do this for us. So basically what happened is Steam came out there and said, yep, we can no longer host certain adult games that have certain themes in them. And most notably, this is something the porn industry has also dealt with over the past couple of years regarding some of the subjects that they cover out there. And what's happening is Nier creator, so Nier Automata, what was the other game that they had out there? So I forgot the name, but basically he comes out there and talks about that, about credit card payment companies refusing to process payments for legal adult content. It's kind of its own type of censorship. And he's concerned because what happens if some other topic becomes verboten and payment processors say, well, we're not covering that anymore. Oh, well, now we're not covering that. Oh, well, we're not covering that anymore. Like, it becomes a slippery slope saying, well, if we're all beholden to the payment processors, it hits you in the freedom of speech category that's saying, I can't make games that I want. Obviously, there's always a fine line between that, same as the porn industry. What is acceptable? What isn't acceptable? But I think Yoko Taro's comment is, well, nobody realizes how much power these companies truly have. And if they just arbitrarily decide something's not okay to pay anymore, there's really not much people can do about it. Without going too deep into the subject, it's, now Steam put out a new onboarding FAQ for new guidelines, and where the developers now go, okay, well, now you're getting on the Steam platform. Here's things that you need to know, and basically tells them what games are not eligible. And these include games that don't involve hate speech, nude or sexually explicit games, images of real people, adult content that isn't appropriately labeled or age gated, libelous or defamatory statements, content you don't own or have rights to, content that violates the laws of any jurisdiction which will be available, content exploits children in any way, content that is patently offensive or intended to shock or disgust viewers, and it goes on and on and on. And the final item is content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks, or internet network providers, in particularly certain kinds of adult-only content. So they are calling out a very specific type. They're not saying you can't make adult content, very specific adult content. So I don't know, Alex, how do you feel about this quote-unquote censorship?
Ideally, it would be up to Steam to decide what is appropriate to sell on their platform, and then we as consumers, adults, would be able to make choices for ourselves and, parents out there to make the right decisions for their kids, to make sure their kids aren't getting into stuff that they don't need to be playing. Look, I imagine that there's some really nasty, raunchy shit out there when it comes to certain spheres of entertainment, but I don't think payment processors need to be deciding what goes on Steam. I mean, I think if you find that a company sells stuff that you don't agree with, then, don't work with them. But I think that Steam should be able to say what they sell. I mean, as far as like appropriate content goes, like the individual buyer, like, yeah, there's probably some things that if for really awful stuff like exploitation of children and shit like that, I would have to imagine that would stop. I would hope that Valve and Steam would never allow that on their platforms. So really, really bad shit, I think they could kind of, shake out pretty easily. But as far as like violence and stuff like that, it's up to the consumers. Like a lot of us, the people that have disposable income are adults, and it's up to us to figure out what's appropriate for us to play. And I don't know, man. I just figure like if like there's enough people who play on Steam that flag content that say, hey, maybe you guys should take a second look at this, I can understand. But for payment processors to be the ones that are gating that, it just seems like that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, it comes down to where do you draw the line and who gets to say ultimately where that line is. That's a whole complicated issue I'm not going to get into with us here. We're just reporting on the news, folks. Yield, how do you feel about reporting on this particular news article?
I don't really know what to say. I kind of agree with what Alex was saying, that it's kind of up to the consumer what they want to buy, not for the powers that be paying for it, going, well, we're not paying for that. And it's up to, or how I want to say this, platform provider to block out the really, I don't want to say touchy per se, but I'm going to say touchy, the really touchy stuff. It's a slippery slope, because as nasty and weird as some of the stuff is out there, believe it or not, there is a market for it, and people will pay for it. So people are adults; they'll buy what they want to buy, and if you block it, they'll still find a way to buy it. Maybe not on your platform. So I really don't know what to say. I feel like I'm just going to talk myself into a circle.
No, I think we've said enough on it. Just be aware that there's stuff out there. And unfortunately, the risk here I think nobody's talking about is now if publishers can't put their stuff on an official platform that verifies, authenticates, and distributes safely, maybe they start putting their things on less reputable services or systems, and people who are going to go find that stuff now are out there downloading who knows what, possibly spreading viruses, other malware, things like that. And I use that just as a fringe case to say, obviously the people are going to be going downloading stuff that maybe they're not the most reputable people in the world. Just be aware what's out there, folks. I don't know. There's always protection in an official system. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand that, like I said, there's stuff out there that you would probably look at people and say, why the fuck do you want to download that? But I think that, and I would hope that Steam would see it's in their best interest to kind of gate out a lot of the worst case shit. Because if they become a platform where anything goes, I mean, hell, Sony, like there's been some knock on Sony for having too much spam on their PlayStation Store, and it like good games being lost in the wake of all that spam. So surely if your company is out there putting all this really nasty shit out there to buy on your platform, I trust that Steam won't allow that to happen because they care about their platform and their business, and they recognize how bad of a business decision that would be, and it actually hurt their image. You may get certain customers to come to your platform, but it may be the wrong kind of customers, and more level-headed folks might be, oh, this shit's gross, why am I doing this? Hell, it might be the Epic's dream for Steam to start letting shit through, and the Epic Game Store actually can gain some market share.
Well, I mean, Epic Game Store is going to face a lot of the similar issues with these payment processors, but I think Epic is going to try to keep their image squeaky clean compared to what Steam has out there. Relatively. No, all the violence you want, sex, that's a no-no.
Not in this America.
Speaking of no-nos, there is a significant difference between Nintendo's end-user license agreement in the US as compared to Europe. And this has been a hot topic recently, and it's no surprise to any of our listeners as to what's going on. But for maybe those of you who are new, who haven't seen what's going on and maybe had your head under a rock, basically, Nintendo can disable your Nintendo 2 if it determines that you are pirating software. And written into the end-user license agreement in the US, that says, you acknowledge that if you fail to comply with the foregoing restrictions, Nintendo may render the Nintendo account services and or the applicable Nintendo device permanently unusable in whole or in part. That is to say that if they catch you pirating games in the US, they can brick your console. However, that language specifically is not included in the end user license agreement in the UK. And basically, they're just saying they are only doing things to prevent you from accessing pirated software. So this is a case of different rules for different parts of the world, which to me isn't that surprising. The game companies will try to modify things so that way they can sell in certain markets that others may not be operating in. But it just further goes to show that the controversy of Nintendo doing what they're doing is, causing an uproar, and people are unhappy because they say, well, I buy the console, I should be able to do with it whatever I want. And this argument is strictly in relevance to, pirating games. So again, does Nintendo have a right to protect their intellectual property by just letting you do whatever you want on your system? Or are they overstepping their boundaries to say, no, we can brick your console if you don't want it? And by the way, if you're in Europe, you're fine. But if you're in the US, screw you.
What if you
Alex?
buy a Europe console and bring it to the US?
I think, so the interesting thing is, I don't think the Switch is region locked anymore. You buy one in Europe, it's the same as if you buy it over here. The only difference is those Japanese only consoles, which, if you remember the story that they were going for cheaper, you had to be part of the lottery to get one, but they were localized to Japan only. So they couldn't play games worldwide. Good question, but I
just thought I'd ask. I'm like, because that's what I would try to do.
Yeah, no, I also think geolocation plays a role, and you can't exactly put a VPN on your Switch 2 yet. Alex, your thoughts on the shenanigans?
So maybe these aren't questions, just kind of casual observations that, maybe I'm reading too much into it and it's not the actual case, but is this Nintendo dancing around maybe more consumer protections in Europe? Like maybe the people of Europe, the game players, have more protections in law than we do here in the US, which is why the language is different. But also, is this an admittance that they have to go further with the United States because piracy is a bigger issue in the United States than it is across the pond? Those are kind of two things that I kind of get from this story. That potentially more consumer protections than Europe, but also maybe piracy is a bigger issue here in the US?
I think it speaks more to the protections in Europe than the piracy problem. I think you're faced with definitely more stringent consumer protection laws over in Europe than you have over here.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I can't go against that, but I mean, it's, the US being, I would imagine that the US and Japan are Nintendo's two biggest markets, not to, throw any cold water on Europe. I'm sure, it's the third biggest market, I would say. But I mean, US, I would say behind Japan is probably the biggest market for Nintendo. And I just, thought maybe there might be an issue there that, there's more at stake with piracy in the US because there's so much more money that comes out of this country when it comes to buying games for the Switch.
You're not wrong. Yield?
I'm kind of two minds of this, so I guess I'm on the fence. People spend good money on their consoles. We'll say right now you're spending $500 for your console. So the thought process of, I just spent $500 on my console, this is mine. I can do with it as I want. I don't disagree with that line of thought. But also, on the flip side of this coin, is that console is providing updates constantly now. It's not the, PlayStation 2, SNES and back, where even N64 for Nintendo, you can go GameCube really, I'm back for Nintendo, that you weren't getting updates. So you bought it, it was yours, and you could really do whatever you want with it because you weren't affecting anybody. But now everybody's consoles are getting updates that you don't pay for. Because if you don't get into anybody's online program per se, I don't know what Nintendo calls theirs, but you don't get into Xbox Live, you don't get into PlayStation Plus, I see where the development has a leg to stand on because they're providing updates for the consoles and all that. So I can't really lean one way or the other.
To take Yield's point a little further, and Yield, you can tell me if this is kind of what you're going for.
Where I'm going? Okay.
Nintendo can look in what we're doing. Now, since our devices became connected to the internet, I mean, granted, we all love online play, stuff like that, but your Super Nintendo, they can't look in on you what you're playing on that. But when your device is connected to the web, they can pull a whole lot more data and look at what you're doing and check in on you, so to speak. So I think that
how many hours you spent on this game or this genre of games.
But really, they have the codes again for the games, like the single-use codes for the Switch games, to where we talked about last week, I believe, where somebody sells it online, somebody buys it legally, but somehow there's the first person makes a copy of the game, and then you have got the two same codes in the wild, and the second person looks like they're at fault when really the first person. Nintendo can check in on all that. And on older consoles, they couldn't do that. So that's more of an issue these days, is that Nintendo can actually kind of peek in on what you're doing on the console they sold you, which in theory makes it less yours. Because you buy a Super Nintendo, you and your buddies can trade games, you can share games. What the fuck are they going to do? Now, that kind of thing is, I guess you still could do it, but
you can share games, but you just can't have the same game on the same game code on at the same time.
Yeah, but again, it's their ability to peek in the window, so to speak, of your house and see what you're doing on your console. They can track more of what you're doing, whereas before they couldn't do that.
And we had to take a very short break there. I had some technical difficulties, but we are back and we have finished at least the news for the week. So we are going to move on to listener questions. I imagine this is the part where Trickery will put in the annoying music.
Time to check my social media, yeah.
And we have a couple questions this week, and I posted both in the Facebook group as well as Channel 3. And I'll address Channel 3 first because this comes from Ray, who just asked about my thoughts on Monster Hunter and the game released with a big bang. However, it's fallen into overwhelmingly negative. And that is mostly due in part to the bad performance that people have been experiencing on PC, at least for where Steam's involved. So, listen, the game holds up for me, and I still agree that, it needs to be optimized more. Listen, it works great on my system, frame generation and all, but a lot of people still aren't experiencing it, and it doesn't look that much more impressive than what World did a couple of years ago. So maybe, Capcom needs to learn a lesson about optimization and making things work. But that's where I'll leave that at. Now, moving over to our Facebook group, V writes in and goes, "Why did you get V obsessed with Dungeon Crawler Carl, but she is not allowed to get me obsessed with K-pop Demon Hunters?" Either of you hear about those two fads or the fanaticism between those two forms of media?
Well, isn't K-pop Demon Hunters is a show on Netflix, isn't it?
That is correct.
So I've seen that on Netflix on my scroll, and I watched the trailer for it, but as far as anything surrounding it, no, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, it's evidently getting a lot of popular thumbs up on Netflix as far as the show's concerned. And Dungeon Crawler Carl is what's known as a literature RPG. And it's about 8 books now. 7 books, 8 books, one of those.
Yeah, I think Ashley has some of those.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, but V has been on a kick just reading it. And the basic premise is Earth and amongst many other planets were populated by alien races that after a certain period has passed, they come through and do what's known as the crawl, where they decimate pretty much, 90% of life, but open dungeons for people to go in. And when they do, it's a real life video game for these people. But it is also real life killing and death and destruction. It's crazy. And it's a fun book, and it follows a crawler named Carl and his cadre. It's fun, but V has been reading it vehemently over the past couple days on her new Paperwhite Kindle. And then K-pop Demon Hunters, like I said, it's just a popular show on Netflix. So she's just saying that, she's upset that she can't get me into K-pop Demon Hunters because she's a huge K-pop fan. I just haven't watched it because I don't watch a whole lot these days. I don't know. Do you guys have time to watch stuff?
No.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
you go ahead.
I'm too busy playing games.
We do, I would say I play fewer hours of games than Yield does, and I kind of fill that time with maybe a little bit more television, because we do watch some television series on Netflix and stuff like that, and, sometimes, if Ashley falls asleep and I'm still up, I've recently, in the last month or so, taken to watching, the Jaws 50th anniversary edition and, a couple of the Jurassic Parks that I had never seen, so, I very much make a little bit more time just for watching TV, especially because it's kind of an activity we oftentimes do together. So, yeah, it's just we haven't watched K-pop Demon Hunters because reading is more of Ashley's thing. I'm not a big reader. We might sit down and watch K-pop Demon Hunters at some point, but it's relatively new, right? It hasn't been out for more than a couple weeks, right?
Pretty damn new.
Yeah. So.
I just don't find myself sitting down watching a whole lot. And if I do, I'm watching stuff on YouTube, and maybe that's the brain rot happening. But
I tell you, fucking what, between YouTube and podcasts, I don't know how I have time to watch anything on television. But
yeah, absolutely. And my issue is, I'm just getting around to watching House of the Dragon season 2, and I'm like, okay, and just because it's an hour of time that I got to spend at night to watch something, I go, do I really want to get into this now when I'm trying to go to sleep? I don't know. Anyways, yeah, so there you go, hon. That's your answer. But she does say, what game, if any, could break V's obsession with playing Blueprints? Have you guys seen that game at all?
Blueprints? No. I thought that was stuff you just collected in DK64 for the little weasel man.
No, it's a first-person discovery game, and it's you inherit a mansion, but you have to reconfigure the mansion according to the clues and the tests. Kind of like Myst back in the day, but more modular.
Oh,
you have
I
to,
thought
place
you said
the rooms.
You said blueprints. I thought you said blueprints, like like a blueprint for like a building.
No.
Okay, the words. So I had talked about that game previously and how I had it in my list and I was going to play it at some point. I don't have the correct tier of PlayStation Plus to play anymore, but it did look interesting. I was just, for me, I wasn't sure if like the strict puzzle gameplay would be something I would be particularly love the art style, but I wasn't sure if the puzzle gameplay would be something that would really be something that I would enjoy, especially so heavily invested in it. Like it's mostly just like all puzzle solving.
But you do see the double entendre there. Blueprints.
Well, yeah, the layout of the house, yeah. Blueprints
exactly.
for the house, and then, blueprints, I guess.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I was confused, okay? You said the words too fast. I was confused.
I know, I speak like shit.
But you know what? No, it's fine, Matt. But I did get to make a sweet DK64 joke, so I'll take that.
So my only answer to V's question is going to be when Dragon Quest 12 comes out. That's going to be what breaks her away, at least for a little bit. And Will writes in, the guy who makes our nice little graphics, says, in light of the Steam horny boy game brouhaha, he'd like to ask, what is the horniest game you've played? That's a good horny boy game.
Wait,
don't
what was that
know.
one PS2 game that got banned?
The guy game?
Yeah, the guy game.
I remember because I was working
between those two.
I was working at CompUSA at the time, and we had to return to manufacture all those games, and I remember seeing it sit on the shelf.
So when they pulled all of the new copies off the store shelves, two of my buddies went and bought them used from GameStop. Bought like the only used copies they had because they knew sooner or later all those copies were going to disappear too.
Yeah, well, technically they own child porn now. That was the big thing. It's because it featured an underage girl. Yeah.
Well, unbeknownst to them.
That is true, but I wouldn't want to touch that game within the 10-foot pole. Get it out of here. I don't need it. I don't know.
If you're playing a horny boy game, you might have a 10-foot pole. Heyo.
I don't know. I guess I'll go with like Bayonetta just because the sheer sexuality of that goddamn game.
Yeah, but like me, you probably played that game for the gameplay, which is outstanding. I mean, yes.
It is outstanding, yes.
Her clothes are her hair, but...
And they go away. Actually, you know what? No, I think I've played Dead or Alive beach volleyball once or twice.
Oh, you bastard. You're in the arena of my answer. No, I may have played that at a friend's house, but my answer is going to be Dead or Alive 2 for the Dreamcast because there's also a Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore, which probably isn't as fun as you think. But, I mean, just some of the female characters in those games are just, the bounce physics, the scantily clad bodies. Like, I played it because it was a fighting game, and I that was my era, like Soul Calibur and all that kind of stuff, where I was into fighting games. But I guess it's probably the horniest horny boy game I've ever played, just because simply the female characters are just, I mean, for God's sakes, they transition to beach volleyball and bikinis. So
yeah, well, it's like I said, there's a bunch of mainstream horny boy games. And then, like, there's Steam, where there's blatant stuff. Like, V has played stuff that is blatantly, like, no, you know why you bought this and are playing it. So, I don't deal with that shit on my Steam account. And this goes back to that conversation of saying, if you're going to get it from an official source, so you're not buying shit that is potentially infecting your PC with random malware. Well, that is all the questions we have for this week. Thank you to those who wrote in. And now we go to our topic of the week.
Toe. Topic of the week. Well, fine then. Fuck you, Matt.
I'm expecting Tricky to have put that soundbite in. Hopefully he finally fucking shortened the dead silence between it.
The good 5-6 seconds.
Good 5-6 seconds. I think we're good with a good 3 seconds. This week's topic, again, our good old boy Yves Guillemot talking about the failure that was Star Wars Outlaws. And that he says that it was a flop, that he's pointing fingers at the franchise itself, claiming the galaxy far, far away just wasn't popular enough when the game dropped. Basically, I disagree with him wholeheartedly. I think Star Wars is more popular more than ever. But this goes back to, remember the Bounty Hunter game that they were developing? And we were all excited because it was going to be based off The Mandalorian.
Star Wars.
And maybe not. No, well, there's that too. And that was supposed to be...
Oh,
well,
okay.
No,
yeah. Right. There was kind of a Mandalorian-ish game.
And immediately got killed when EA decided to fuck up, as usual. I've enjoyed the story I've played in Outlaws thus far. It's good, but the entire time I'm sitting there playing it going, I don't like the outlaw portion. I like the bounty hunter. I like being heavily armored and planning missions and taking things down, which this game mostly had. And that's nothing on the actress. I think I'd like the idea of playing a Mandalorian a lot more than playing just a random Star Wars outlaw.
My biggest gripe with the game was I think they didn't develop the main character well enough.
She was very one-dimensional, right?
She was, yeah. And I've said it before on the show. You get the whole, and I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, you get the whole, I'm new to this, I don't know what I'm doing. And okay, cool. We're at the very beginning of the game. You get 2/3, or even more, less than 2/3, but you get well into the game. You are very well experienced by now, and you still get in the cutscenes the apprehension from her, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's like, what do you mean? I know what you're doing. And it's just, I feel they didn't develop key aspects of it. Like I said, that's my personal opinion. I enjoyed the game for what it was. It probably could have been better here or there, but it's a Star Wars game. Those of us that are in this universe, we're overly critical of everything. So I took it for what it was. I enjoyed it. I don't think it sucked anywhere near as bad as Ubisoft claims it is. There's a shocker. Ubisoft claiming something sucks more than what it does. So, yeah. That's my 2 cents.
What's interesting is this came along the lines of the same shareholders meeting he was talking earlier, where he blamed the game that it was a brand that was a bit of choppy waters because, people were still really upset with the Rise of Skywalker as well as some of the TV shows that have come out. And the article does note that it says Guillemot doesn't mention any of the game's technical or gameplay issues, which you knew there were many at the launch. People had issues with it. So, it's kind of like you didn't do the game technically well, but you're blaming it on the type? No, word of mouth traveled quickly. Alex, you heard us talking about it. You have any thoughts on what we felt like the game was at launch versus where it's at now?
I can't remember anything specific, although, look, is there Star Wars fatigue? Disney's been pumping out more Star Wars than... I think since Disney got it, it feels like there's more Star Wars out there than in all the time before Disney owned it. There's just so damn much. And I am, in particular, a case of where I don't want to see anything Star Wars because it's just, there's been too much out there. Now, what Guillemot says, or what Yves says, is completely taking the easy way out. Because you can look at someone like EA, and EA, for a while there, they were fucking up real bad. But Jedi came out. Was Jedi Survivor the first one? Fallen Order, which people really liked. I thought was a good game. And then there's Jedi Survivor, and it seems like both of those will receive really well. So you can still, and hell, Yield's playing Battlefront right now, so you can still make a good Star Wars game, and EA proved that. But, you know, Ubisoft just blaming everything on Star Wars, I mean, I still think that even with fatigue for some people, there's still an audience there that's willing to give anything Star Wars a chance. Now, if you slip up, and they may nitpick at the smallest things, but I don't think necessarily since it's a Star Wars game that it was bound to fail. That's not the case. The problem is that Ubisoft and their direction right now is all kind of, you know, I don't even know what to say about them at this point, because Prince of Persia game, the Lost Crown, not good enough. You know, Star Wars Outlaws, not good enough. Like, they had to cancel the what was it, the Phoenix Rising, or what was that
Rising
game?
Sequel? Yeah.
So
Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, that was the one. I was looking for another word in there and I couldn't remember it. It's Immortals, but their just direction and what they're throwing out there is just, I don't know. It seems like people just look at the company as a whole, and because I'll admit it, Lost Crown was a really good game, but the company as a whole just seems like they're in some kind of, you know, jumble, and they don't know how to find their way out. You know, they're all stuck in a paper bag and no one could fucking poke a hole in it.
Immortals Phoenix Rising was another good game. And they're like, no, he doesn't deserve a sequel.
And I said it before, like, the credits for The Lost Crown were fucking astronomically long. They were so fucking long. I think I fell asleep during them. But, you know, it still doesn't... I actually looked up the longest game, or the game with the longest credits. It still doesn't touch Mighty Number 9, which is over 3 hours. Because apparently they included all the people that, like, the paid for... help pay for the development, like, what's one of those little...
Oh, the paid... not paid.
Yeah, what's the website? GoFundMe or something like that. They added all the people from that in there. But yeah, like, just an astronomically long set of credits, which shows how many people worked on the game. Granted, the game had a lot of polish. I really enjoyed it. But if you're paying that many people on one game, well, no wonder your financials are in a fucking fix. But yeah, I don't think it's a problem with Star Wars. I do think that Disney and how they treated Star Wars definitely does rankle some people, or, you know, a lot of people. And I definitely think there is some fatigue out there. But it just being the go-to excuse and not, like, looking inwards like, no, we as a company are fucking up, that just is why people don't have a lot of faith in Ubisoft these days.
And what's interesting is you talk about, he goes, at the time. So we're talking 2024, right? How long was the game in development? Did they not have analysts kind of looking at it going, well, how long is the Star Wars craze going to last? Are we getting started on the game now at the wrong time? Like, maybe, you know, you look at it and go, EA canceled the Mandalorian Bounty Hunter game because that game wouldn't have seen light for at least 3 years. And they're going, well, maybe Star Wars won't be as big of a thing in 3 years.
And the Mandalorian craze would probably be gone by then.
Yeah, and were they going to have to time it with the release of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie? And maybe they weren't going to make it because, you know, a lot of these games try to hook into the film industry and launch around similar times of, you know, movie releases to cash in, essentially. Were they going to be able to do it? Were there other financial problems? You know, Star Wars Outlaws is a solid game as far as the bones. Execution, there were issues. There were a bunch of uncanny valley issues with character models that I think AI probably played a role in. The missions were decent. The areas were really cool. You know, speeding across Tatooine or some of the other areas was fun. So, like, the game was decent. I just think it wasn't what certain people wanted. And again, I partly blame that on the character development. You know, a lot of people wanted to play a badass, you know, Mandalorian or you know, some other alien species. And here we got just yet another human. And like Yield and I said, Kay, interesting, but very one-dimensional. All about the money, all about doing what she does to make a living and squeak by. Now take Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. Relatively popular games. People enjoyed those. It's getting a third game to close out the trilogy. People aren't tired of Star Wars. they want certain things.
We want good content. Good stories is what we want. We just don't want a story and you slap it with Star Wars shine. It's gotta make sense in the universe. It's the same thing that those of us, the fans, and even us on the show, we've complained about some of the shows that we've gotten on TV. It's not that they're all bad. It's just sometimes there's a lot of filler that we don't feel needs to be there, or they're going in circles. And so it's all a good story that pushes everything forward. That's my opinion. It pushes everything forward, creates more wonder in the universe, not, take what we've seen and just shine it up.
Yeah, and take something like Astrobot, which the character doesn't speak, but there's character development there. There's a mission, and there's an end goal in sight. I honestly don't know what the end goal is for Outlaws, because I haven't finished it. I know you did.
I have.
But I'm looking at it going, all right, at what point does K win, so to speak? And I'm still looking for that. And it's still fun. I enjoy exploring and finding things. I just wish there was maybe some more interesting stuff. And I think about one mission on Tatooine that I was going through. I'm walking along the street and somebody comes up to me randomly, and I say randomly with air quotes, like, I need you to help find my sister or my brother. I forgot whatever the mission was. And then I started going, okay, that's a mission I'll accept. And now I'm into it. I'm investigating. I'm trying to find things. And I'm really interested in it. And then I get to the end and I was like, okay, that was a cool side mission. Going back to Starfield, there was an entire sub-quest line where I start working for a big company and I have to work my way up. And it's a very cutthroat mission. And I'm canceling people. I'm investigating higher ups. And that was a really cool mission. And that's what I think like these open world games need, are more missions like that are not necessarily a huge part of the story, but are really unique and cool to go through. And I think Outlaw might have been missing more of that.
Have you gotten to the Clone Wars reference?
No.
No? When you get to that might be your favorite part of the game. I know it was mine. When you get to that part and you go through that quest line, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I liked the nod, and and saying that made me think of that, or more missions like that. It made me go, why didn't this game have a little bit more of that, of where we connected past Star Wars to where we're at now?
And I think that.
Am I saying that right? Because that's how I felt that mission did. Was it took something way back here, and if you hadn't watched any of the animated series, it may not resonate as much with you. But if you had, then you're connecting stuff like that, and you're bringing it into where this game is. And that's what I like in the Star Wars, is when you don't do it in a way that makes it go, look, we're doing it, but it just kind of feels like it just naturally flowed. That's what I like.
Yeah, and it takes an artist to be able to do something like that, where you put something in that some people may get, some people may not, but it's still there. It exists, especially for those who appreciate it.
And it doesn't deter from what's going on in the game. If you get it, awesome. If you don't, you might go, well, I need to look into that because this is going somewhere and I don't get it.
Yeah, and I'm always happy when they add stuff like that in. I don't know. Alex, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just a final thought. It seems like you all kind of, or at least Matt, and maybe Yield and Shades, kind of took a little, say the most uninteresting part or least exciting part of the game was the main character and what she chose to do as a profession. Isn't all that direction and all that creation based on what Ubisoft chose to do? Didn't they choose to make this game with this character that they wrote for?
Yes.
Exactly.
So doesn't it all fall back on? I mean, I know we're all getting to the same point, but I'm just saying it out loud, like Ubisoft likes to say shit out loud. Again, all of this was in Ubisoft's hands. Character creation, story direction, all of that. And so it falls back on Ubisoft and not Star Wars. But people aren't going to just buy Star Wars fans aren't going to just buy your Star Wars thing because it's a Star Wars thing. You have to make it good. Dummies.
Fine point.
I can't say it any better, even though I am kind of guilty sometimes from buying Star Wars because of Star Wars. But when it's good, I'll praise it. When it's bad, I'm going to call it out.
Drag it through the mud.
I will. I hold this franchise very high and dear to my heart, so don't muck it up.
Oh, they're gonna muck it up.
Oh, I know. Disney has done a great job of that. Did I say
as
that?
Is tradition. Yep. Alrighty.
Anyway.
Why don't we land this plane? So, Alex, your shout out, sir.
Want to give a shout out to our awesome community, the fuel to the fire that is Trophy Whores. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for spreading the word. And just thank you all for your support. We really appreciate it. Shout out to my co-hosts tonight, Yield and Matt, as well as Tricky, who could not join us. A shout out to Will for the artwork that he does for the show. Always good stuff. And lastly, shout out to my awesome and loving girlfriend, Ashley. I love you, hun. And that is going to be the end for me.
All right. Yield.
Shout out to Alex and Matt for recording this evening. Shout out to Tricky for being behind the scenes because we know that he was listening. Shout out to I'll give a shout out to the group that I was boosting with this weekend in Star Wars Battlefront. Give a shout out to Nitro, Bolton Terror. Oh, where can I'm scrolling through this. Paul Gord 4, Rotella Gaming, Vic 1, Killer Shark 59, Keen of James 451, Kupka, Mars Powerful 758, Savage Budster, Star Wars Dan 3000, WWE Bido. That's how I'm going to say it. So, shout out to all of those gamers for working together. Shout out to my niece who had a really awesome dance recital of Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I think that's how it was said. Anyway, it was really good. Best one I've seen of hers. Shout out to everybody, all the pimps in the mountain to the whoredom for listening, hanging out with us, downloading, playing games. Shout out to Gareth for the rarity competition. That's a lot of independent work, so very much appreciative of that. And that'll do me for this week.
Ready, and I'll close out just by saying shout out to you gents for recording. Shout out to Tricky, who is in Istanbul, to recruit some additional listeners. That's right, Istanbul, not Constantinople. As well as a shout out to the Channel 3 community. Make sure to check out channel3.gg to get some gamified social media, earn some XP, talk about games, like we do here. Shout out to Will for his art, and shout out to my wife V for everything you do on and off the show. With that said, we will see you on the episode of Trophy Horrors next week for episode 680, where I'm sure we'll be covering more news. With that said, happy hunting, folks.
It's nobody's business but the clerks.
Later.
The theme song is Venus by the band Even off their album Zenith. Permission granted by the band and 12 Stone Records. You can find them on Facebook by going to www.facebook.com/evenphilippines.